Dear students, welcome back. Now we are going to see acromioclavicular motions. Here, the articular facets of the acromioclavicular joint are small and causes only limited motion and it is having wide range of individual differences, though here very small range of motions occur at the acromioclavicular joint, but each and every motions will have a lot of differences in the case of movements. So for all these reasons, the studies which were done on the motions on the acromioclavicular joint are inconsistent. They are not up to the mark because the results are not getting in such a way that there are some movements taking place. Those movements are taking place in which axis? So because of its small joint, so the motions are taking place in different directions on different planes and axes, but those axes of identification is not properly done at the acromioclavicular joint because it creates some visual impairments, we can call it as. So for that reasons, the movements of the acromioclavicular joint are inconsistent. Okay, and so that means what? So whatever the movements taking place inside the acromioclavicular joint, so for that we can't identify this axis. So if it is moving a anterior translatory motion, so on which axis it is taking place, we can't find it properly in the case of motions which are taking place at the acromioclavicular joint. But the primary rotatory motions that takes place at the acromioclavicular joints are: one is the internal and external rotation, internal and external rotations, and anterior and posterior tilting. So one is the rotational movements, that is internal and external rotations, and also anterior and posterior tilting. And next one is the another rotatory movements, that is upward and downward rotations. So we have mentioned these are the primary rotatory motions which are occurring at the acromioclavicular joint. So what are those? Internal and external rotation, antero-posterior tilting, and upward and downward rotations. And so because of inconsistent results or studies of acromioclavicular joint motions, these movements, these internal and external rotation movements, anterior posterior tilting movements, upward and downward rotation movements, are going to study at the plane of the scapula. That means to the plane of the scapula, we are going to study all these movements. So what happens to the scapula during all these motions? So at which axis this scapula is going to rotate? But it is forming joint at acromioclavicular joint, that becomes the fulcrum actually, and this scapula acts as a lever. So because of this movements of the scapula, we can identify this internal and external rotation or anterior posterior tilting or tipping or upward and downward rotations. సో ఇక్కడ ఏమవుతుంది, సో అక్కడేమో ఇది చిన్న జాయింట్ కాబట్టి ఇక్కడ ఏం జరుగుతుందో ఫైండ్ అవుట్ చేయడం చాలా కష్టంగా ఉంది. సో అక్కడ మోషన్స్ జరిగినా ఆ మోషన్స్లో ఉండే యాక్సిస్ని మనం ఫైండ్ చేయడం చాలా ఇబ్బందికరంగా ఉంది. కాబట్టి ఆ స్టడీస్ అన్నీ కూడా ఏం చేశాయంటే, ఇట్ ఈస్ వెరీ డిఫికల్ట్ టు స్టడీ at the joint level. So but the movements are taking motions at the acromioclavicular joints are taking place. So we have to consider those motions by using the plane of the scapula. That means how the scapula is moving. If the scapula is moving sideways, that is called as, which is causing some internal and external rotation at the acromioclavicular joint. Or sometimes if the scapula is moving upwards and downwards, so then it is called as upward and downward rotation. So sometimes, so this scapula will tilt upwards anteriorly. Superior part of the scapula is tilting anteriorly, then the inferior angle will become prominent on the posterior aspect. So such kind of movement is called as anterior and posterior tilting or tipping. So so during that motions, by considering this such kind of plane of the scapula movements, so what is happening at the acromioclavicular joint, we are going to study. So how many rotatory movements are there? So at the acromioclavicular joint, it is having internal and external rotation, upward and downward rotation, and also anterior and posterior tilting. This tilting is also called as tipping. Okay, and now we will see at what axis all these movements are taking place. So internal and external rotation of the scapula in relation to the acromioclavicular joint. So we have to explain it that the movements are taking place at the acromioclavicular joint. So in the plane of scapula, we can't consider the normal cardinal planes, that is sagittal plane, coronal plane, transverse plane. We can't consider that on the plane of the scapula. Okay, how these movements are taking place. So internal and external rotation taking place on the vertical axis. So this is the vertical axis. Here you can see this vertical axis. Okay, so this is the vertical axis, and anterior and posterior rotation occurs, that is tilting occurs in the coronal axis. So this coronal axis is not actual coronal axis, it is having some obliquity. So oblique. So if you just visualize how the position of the scapula which is present on the thorax, just imagine that. So it is not, the scapula is not present as we can call it as straight, or it is present on the thorax equally. So it is having some angulation, some tilting of the scapula is present in the anatomical position. That means the scapula is touching the thorax, isn't it, at the angulation. So on the lateral aspect, so it is having some tilting of the scapula. So because of the tilting of the scapula, what is happening, the actual planes, that means in the anatomical position, if you cut all these coronal planes and sagittal planes at the level of this plane of the scapula, this will not come in such a way. So then what happens? So some oblique AP axis or oblique coronal axis, like that we will get. So the same type of thing we have seen in costovertebral joints also. So there also we are taking this oblique axis there. The same thing happened here also, in because of the plane of the scapula, or we can call it as the position of the scapula. So these axes are going to altered from the normal axes. Okay, but this external and internal rotation is occurring exactly in the vertical axis, but the remaining two movements, that is the anterior posterior tilting, whereas the upward and downward rotations are taking place in oblique axes. So for anterior and posterior tilting, it occurs in oblique coronal axis. So this one is called as oblique coronal axis. This is oblique coronal axis. Normally, this anterior and posterior tilting taking place during elevation and depression of the scapula. So elevation and depression of the scapula takes place in the oblique coronal axis. Okay. Whereas internal and external rotation takes place in the protraction and retraction of the clavicle. Protraction and retraction of the clavicle causes internal and external rotation at the acromioclavicular joint. Okay, next, another movement, that is anterior and posterior tilting. So we have seen that is elevation or depression of the scapular movements taking place. During elevation, what will happen? The scapula move upwards. During depression, the scapula move downwards. Okay, now coming to the upward and downward rotation. So this upward and downward rotation taking place in oblique AP axis. So upward and downward movements taking place in the oblique AP axis. Okay, so during elevation of the arm, so if you can see this, so from the normal position of this, the scapula will move like this. Okay, so this is that means here what will happen, the glenoid cavity is moving anteriorly, upwards and anteriorly. That is called upward rotation of the scapula. And during downward rotation, what will happens, this scapula will move back and this glenoid cavity will come downwards. So this is the thing happening during upward and downward rotation. So this will takes place in the oblique AP axis. This will takes place in the oblique AP axis. So now we are going to see the first movement. Before starting this rotation movements, so all these movements we are describing to the plane of the scapula, how the scapula is moving. Based on this only, we are giving the names to the rotatory motions which are taking place at the acromioclavicular joint. And though these movements are taking place on the plane of the scapula, but some translatory motions are also occurring at the inside the acromioclavicular joint. And also Some movements are also taking place at the, because of these movements, some movements are taking place at the sternoclavicular joint also. Some movements are taking place in the sternoclavicular joint also. And these motions which are occurring at the acromioclavicular joint are very small in magnitude. They are very small in magnitude. So the translations which are usually occurring at the acromioclavicular joint are defined as anterior and posterior translations, medial and lateral translations, and superior and inferior translations. So these are all the motions which are taking place at the acromioclavicular joint. So because of this kind of translations occur in uh, three different directions, so this joint is having 3 degree of freedom of motions taking place at the acromioclavicular joint. So you have to, so before going to the actual movements which are taking place in the acromioclavicular joint, so you have to differentiate that what is happening at the plane of the scapula. First thing you have to know it, at what axis the scapula is moving, that is the second point. And next point you have to mention that what is happening at the acromioclavicular joint, whether it is having any anterior or posterior translation, medial or lateral, or superior or inferior translations are taking place. So these 3 points you have to mention it clearly. And here some movements are explained based upon the movements which are taking place during or these movements are always related to the clavicular motions. So when we study in the clavicular motion, whatever movement we have studied in the clavicular motions, which causes some movement in scapula also, which causes some movement in the scapula also, we have studied like that, isn't it? In the rotation of the clavicle, so what we have studied there, so some movements are causing at the scapula level, we have studied. During protraction and retraction, what is happening? So there is some movement of scapula on the scapula is also occurred. So always whatever movement is taking place at the scapula is always related to the movements taking place in the clavicle. During in such explanation we are going to see both the thing, so what is happening in the clavicular motions and how it influence the scapular movements, okay, or due to the scapular motions what is happening at the clavicular motions. So it forms an integrated functions, okay. So if you understand these points at this level, it is very easy to understand when we go to integrated functions of the shoulder complex, okay. Now we will see the first movement. The first one is the internal and external rotation. Internal and external rotation. So this is the movement which is taking place, that is the internal and external rotation of the scapula in relation to clavicle. Again it comes clavicle here. Internal and external rotation of the scapula in relation to the clavicle occurs around an approximately vertical axis. So it is using this approximately vertical axis through the acromioclavicular joint. Normally this vertical axis is present in between the acromioclavicular joint and in between and the coracoclavicular ligament. So the axis is passing in between them. So that is called the vertical axis. So internal and external rotation of the scapula in relation to the clavicle occurs around an approximately, not exactly, approximately vertical axis through the acromioclavicular joint. This axis, this vertical axis is present in between the acromioclavicular joint and the coracoclavicular ligament. Okay. So how can you appreciate this internal and external rotation of the scapula in relation to clavicle? Okay, this internal and external rotation at the acromioclavicular joint can be best visualized by bringing this, what is the glenoid fossa, by bringing the glenoid fossa of the scapula anteromedially. So for example, this is the position of the scapula of the glenoid cavity. What is happening, if you see this, it appears somewhat laterally. So during this internal and external rotation, so if you take the internal rotation, what is happening? So this facing of the glenoid cavity goes to anteromedially. So that means it occurs like this. Anteromedially it is appearing. So anteromedially, the facing of the glenoid fossa towards anteromedially, and in the case of external rotation, what is happening? It is facing, the glenoid fossa is facing posterolaterally. So that means in internal rotation, the glenoid fossa is facing anteromedially, means then internal rotation of the scapula is occurred. And when the glenoid fossa is facing posterolaterally, then it is called as external rotation. Okay, so based upon this, we can easily identify that, oh, the scapula is internally rotated or externally rotated. Okay, and these motions occur in part to maintain the scapula with the horizontal curvature of the thorax. So it has to maintain the contact between the scapula and the thorax, the two horizontal curvature of the thorax, as the clavicle protracts and retracts. So what is happening? So here in this pic you can see, so whenever the clavicle protracts, what is happening? Here you can see the scapula is moving. So the scapula is rotating. So the scapula is rotating internally on the horizontal curvature of the thorax. Here you can see this is the superior surface of the scapula. What is happening during protraction? What is happening? This will move the vertebral border. You can see here the vertebral border will move like this. That means it is rotating internally. So it is rotating internally, and the outer border, the vertebral border is the outer border, it will come backwards during protraction. In the case of retraction, what will happen? Again, this vertebral border will move in this way, and the scapula will rotate back, and the scapula will rotate back. That is called external rotation. So during this process, what is happening? During protraction, what is happening? It is moving somewhat anteriorly. So what happened to the glenoid fossa at this level? So anteriorly, the glenoid fossa is facing anteromedially. When it comes backwards, so here the vertebral border is again go back to its original normal position. Then what it is beyond its normal position during retraction. So what is happening? This Glenoid fossa is facing posterolaterally. In the plane of scapula, it is facing more laterally. Okay, so this is happening during this internal and external rotation of the scapula. Okay, here we are, how can we visualize it this one? During clavicular protraction, so what is happening? The scapula is rotating internally at the vertical axis, causing the glenoid fossa or bringing the glenoid fossa facing anteromedially, and this vertebral border is seen prominently, the vertebral border of the scapula seen prominently in this case. Okay, and again during retraction, what is happening? So again this scapula is rotating on the horizontal curvature of the thorax. The vertebral border will move inside, and in this case the vertebral border is not prominent, and during this motion the the glenoid fossa comes posterolaterally. And normally when the vertebral border is become prominent, what is that condition called? You people have studied in anatomy, that is called winging of scapula, isn't it? So but that one is a pathological condition, but in biomechanics in some other texts this movement is explained as winging of scapula also, but in the biomechanics this winging is explained as normal scapular motions, that is scapular protraction and retraction is taking place. So the scapula, during scapular protraction and retraction, what is happening means, here the scapula is rotating on the horizontal surface of the what horizontal curvature of the ribs. So almost all the time it is come in contact with this thing. So during protraction, what is happening means this vertebral border is only touching the curvature, and the remaining part is in space. So this movement is also called as shoulder abduction and not shoulder, scapular abduction and scapular adduction. What is happening? So here when it is rotating during protraction, this vertebral border is moving away from the midline, then it is called as shoulder abduction. During retraction, what is happening? Again this vertebral border comes to its normal position or somewhat comes nearer to the vertebral border, so it is called as scapular adduction. Okay, so these are the terms used in the internal and external rotation. These are the things happened, uh, in the internal and external rotation. Okay, so and another important thing you have to remember, so whatever all these motions, so in internal and external rotations, and the glenoid fossa is facing anteromedially posterolaterally, so what is the use of this phasing of this anterolaterally and posterolaterally of the glenoid fossa? What it causes actually? So these motions, these scapular motions, now we have seen during protraction and retraction, and also we call it as abduction, scapular abduction and adduction, and also we related this thing with the clavicular rotation as well as the clavicular protraction and retraction. So the simple thing you have to remember this: oh, clavicle is protracted, then scapula is also protracted. Okay, if clavicle is retracted, the scapula is retracted. So then what happens in the plane of the scapula? So during when it comes when during the scapular protraction, the scapula is abducted. So when it is retracted, the scapula is adducted. So during this movements, how can you identify? So we are considering the two parts of the scapula to understand this motion. One is the glenoid fossa, and we have taken this vertebral border. So during protraction, and we can call it as scapular abduction, what is happening? This glenoid fossa is facing anteromedially. What happens to the vertebral border? This vertebral border becomes prominent during scapular abduction. So whenever this vertebral border becomes prominent, in biomechanical terms it commonly called as winging of the scapula, but here in the biomechanics we are using this winging of scapula as a normal motions of the acromioclavicular joint. Okay, this is happening here, and whenever this clavicular retraction causes scapular retraction, that is called as scapular adduction. What will happen to this glenoid fossa? It is facing posterolaterally, and this vertebral border will move nearer to the median plane. Okay, this is happening. So because of all these movements, what is the aim of such movements causes? So the aim of this such kind of motions, maintaining the orientation of the glenoid fossa, and also congruency with the humeral head, and it helps in the congruency of the humeral head, and also it maximizes the function of the glenohumeral muscles. It also helps in the function of the glenohumeral muscles, and also the capsules and the ligaments. And during such kind of movements helps in maximizing the stability of the glenohumeral joint. And also whenever all these things happen, what is happening to the range of motion? Definitely the range of motion at the acromioclavicular joint is normally is difficult to measure, but at the glenohumeral joint the range of motion is increased. Okay, and the estimate, some studies have explained that during such kind of motions, the available range at the acromioclavicular joint is given as 30 degrees for combined internal as well as the external rotation. So combined action of internal and external rotations causes 30 degrees of range of motion at the acromioclavicular joint. Okay, whereas some studies they have done on the cadaveric level. So they have they have calculated up to 40 to 60 degrees. Okay, this is about the range of motions taking place during this internal and external rotations at the acromioclavicular joint. Okay, so though we are studying all these movements based on the plane of the scapula, but we have to mention all these motions are taking place at the acromioclavicular joint. So then what is happening? So we have seen this scapula is moving like this, and anteriorly and posteriorly, the glenoid fossa facing anteromedially. So everything we have explained at the acromioclavicular level. And what is happening actually at the acromioclavicular joint? I have told that some translatory motions are taking place at the joint level also. Here, during internal and external rotation of the scapula causes anterior and posterior translations at the level of acromioclavicular joint. This is the arthrokinematics. This is the arthrokinematics of acromioclavicular joint during internal and external rotation of the scapula. So what is happening? So during protraction and retraction, there is anterior and posterior translation occurs. So both the movements, so during protraction it is causing anterior translation, during retraction it is causing posterior translation. Okay, so this is about the internal and external rotations, and also the other motions on which axis they are occurring. The remaining motions we are going to see in the next video. Thank you.